first ever lecture we have done in this location on these topics. So there will be 2 lectures tonight, and for those of you who want to take those, please feel free to take notes. It will help you to understand the material better. Okay? So the title for the first lecture is also linked to the second, and that's the main, delicious, interesting topic. This is the appetizer, leading up to what we'll be studying later. So, introduction to Chronicles genealogy. This word, Chronicles genealogy, refers to the genealogy you will find in 1 Chronicles chapter 1 to chapter 9. We'll be using this term a lot, and we'll be looking at the duties of the priest and the Levites. So, in today's lecture, just to give some context for those of you who have been coming for the BibleHouse lectures, the History of Redemption series is authored by Dr. Reverend Abraham Park, and there are 12 books meant to be published. Out of these, 5 are published in English language, which you will see on the table behind. Today we're starting the first of the lecture here on book 6, which is going to deal with High Priest's genealogy. So when we are going through this, I think what is very instructive before we read any book, before we do any study, is to understand what the author's perspective is. What is the mindset for us to read this book? So that's like a tip and trick. Just like when you take an exam, you want to get your lecturer's views on what are going to be the test questions. So the author has written a foreword, and in his foreword, he termed his mindset in writing this book, reading the Bible and praying, as of a ginseng digger trying to excavate century-old ginseng, which is super difficult, right? So that is the kind of mindset that he had, which means the material you're studying today is not going to be shallow. It is not going to be surface. You will not be able to glean this by listening or reading your Bible at home. It has been excavated through the illumination of the Holy Spirit with the help of Reverend Abraham Park's hands and dedicated prayer. So, as we go through today's lecture, it is going to be very simple because you're all very attentive. This is the first lecture after dinner, and I'm sure that your interest will be overcoming any digestive obstacles. So there are 3 major topics or 3 points that you will be learning today. You will need to understand the relevance of why you have to delve into the Chronicles genealogy. How does this relate to you? So we're going to consider the instruction, which is to consider the years of all generations. And secondly, we'll jump straight into what is the Chronicles genealogy, and how do we structure this in your understanding and in your Bible study. Then last of all, we will complete with the duties of the priests and the Levites. If I flip through the slides too quickly, feel free to take a photo. It's totally okay. So, going to start with the first portion, which is to consider the years of all generations. Now, Deuteronomy, as you know, is the 5th book of Moses' written Pentateuch, which comprises Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. And Deuteronomy is the very last book. Just in every good movie, every good book, the last chapter, the ending is the most exciting. There's no point reading everything without knowing how it all ends. So Deuteronomy is Moses' reiteration. Long word. Deuteronomy literally means second law, or God's word repeated. God's word is repeated or taught a second time. So it's not just a repetition of all the laws and regulations, but it actually has a special message for the Jews, the Israelites, about to enter Canaan. The relevance for you today, you and I are about to enter. We are living in the last days. When that last day will be, we don't know. But we are about to enter into the last days, into heaven. And that is the attitude that the Israelites had to keep, and we as Christians need to have in order to stay alert and awake. So, the central theme of Deuteronomy is chapter 32. And the central theme of the entire chapter 32 is verse 7. So when we look at the target audience, which is you and I today, when we read the historical background, it seems to be talking to the second generation Israelites born in the desert, born in the wilderness journey. It is on the first day of the first month of the last year, 40th year of wilderness wandering. And the theme is God's faithfulness, despite our human failures and wickedness. So the purpose is the same for you and I today when we read Deuteronomy 32:7. It is to lead us to repent when we sin. So going on to how we can take a look at the book, the entire book of Deuteronomy, it can be broadly categorized into two major segments, chapters 1 to 30 and chapters 31 to 34. 1 to 30, the green heading, tells you about the history of Israelites, the Israelites' past history, and it reiterates all the laws and regulations. But what you're going to study today is not that. You'll be studying chapters 31 to 34, specifically chapter 32 in red, the Song of Witness. So chapters 31 to 34, you have Joshua reinstated or Joshua installed as the new leader, the Song of Witness, blessing of 12 tribes, and Moses' final moments. So let's take a look at why. What did God say to you and I and to the Jews about this Deuteronomy 32? If you read just the portions from 31:19 to 21, this is what God instructed Moses. He said, write it down. Write this song down. This song is Deuteronomy 32. For yourselves, and teach it to the children of Israel. Put it in their mouths, that in red, this song may be a witness for me against the children of Israel when things are going well for you. When I brought them to the land flowing with milk and honey, and of which I swore to their fathers, and they have eaten and filled themselves and grown fat. Then they will turn to other gods and serve them, and they will provoke me and break my covenant. This is, when you read these three verses, it's a very sad proclamation of future betrayal. It's almost like how you would feel if you were a husband issuing a receipt to your wife that in future when you betray me, I will forgive you if you come back to me. How does the husband feel writing this, or vice versa, the other spouse that is writing it to the beloved one? But this is what God is saying. I will give you fatness, milk and honey, but you will betray me when you are prosperous. And when you do, I will strike you, but please turn back. That's the whole point of your entire life, of the entire Bible, of all of this lecture today. We can summarize it as coming back to God. So, verse 21, then it shall be when many evils and troubles have come upon them, that this song, Deuteronomy 32, will testify against them as a witness, for it will not be forgotten in the mouths of their descendants, for I know the inclination of their behavior today, even before I have brought them to the land of which I swore to give them. So God knows we will sin in the future, and you have to come back. That's the key. So let's take a look at Deuteronomy 32. It was to be memorized. It was to serve as a witness, like an alibi, when the Israelites sinned. Subject is, the Israelites will betray God, and He will judge them, but they will turn back and repent if they remember the song. And that's the same for us today. It shows us God reaching out to mankind even before we sin, to say, remember when you sin, don't let your sin and guilt be so great and your troubles be so cumbersome you never come back to me. This is His love. So, let's take a look at the Song of Witness, Deuteronomy 32. Moses wrote it on the same day. What a great obedience that is. If God gives us an instruction through Bible study or through prayer to do something, have we done it on the same day? Moses did that. On the same day, he completed the task. It prophesied about Israel's future betrayal, and also it displays God's love. That's why we need to understand the background of this Deuteronomy 32. And in 32, the core of the entire song is verse 7. So if you can have a cheat sheet, just like for exams, don't you love cheat sheets? Don't have to read the whole book, just read the summary, right? The cheat sheet is verse 7. This is the main reason why Moses wrote it. Sorry, I flipped it too fast for you to take photos. There you go. So God's administration of redemption is written through the genealogies. And to study the genealogies is an instruction in verse 7. So let us read this together. Deuteronomy 32:7. You're familiar with this. This is the foundation theme verse on every book written in the History of Redemption series. Book 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 12. Remember the days of old. There are 3 verbs. Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father and he will show you. Ask your elders and they will tell you. There are 3 instructions: to remember the days of old in the past, to consider the years of all the generations, and to ask your elders and father. Elders in Hebrew is zaken. Zaken includes priests, high priests, Levites, spiritual leaders that guide and form the faith of Israel. So we're going to study about those people today. So for you and I, 32:7 applies even till today. It is your compass to see if you are lost spiritually. What are you living for? If you feel there is a meaninglessness to your daily toil, whether it is for God or in your life or just living, then Deuteronomy 32:7 will invite you to find your reason again. So, we will take a look at now genealogies. We have studied lots of genealogies with Horror Ministries. It is even, I would say, the cornerstone, right, of the entire series. So, from books 1, you know that the Genesis genealogies start the first book. And God uses genealogies at all the critical starting and ending portions of the scriptures. Genesis is the first book of the Bible, and it starts off with a whole list of genealogies. From heaven and earth, to Adam, to Noah, to Abraham. It spans 2,300 years and leads all the way to Jesus Christ the Messiah. Now, when we look at the second portion in red, the Chronicles genealogy, which is 1 Chronicles, chapter 1 to 9, this book in your current English or Chinese Bible is located in the middle of your Bible, of the Old Testament. But that is not the original location. It was originally written and filed as the very last book of the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew Bible has Chronicles genealogy closing the Old Testament, which means the Old Testament Bible opens up with genealogies, closes with genealogies. But it's split into 2 books and filed in the middle of your Bible today. The location is different. Now, why was it written as the last book of the Old Testament? Because Jesus is coming. The New Testament starts in Matthew chapter 1 with 17 verses proving from Abraham to Jesus Christ, these are your forefathers of faith. So you can see the Bible ends with Revelations, and you have the book of life, a list of names, of which we hope ours will be included. That's the list of names who believe in Christ, who made it to the kingdom of heaven. So genealogies start off and end off every critical testament in the Bible. Now, of all of these, which is the most expensive, the broadest range, the widest and the vastest genealogy? We can say it's the Chronicles genealogy because it spans all the way 3,656 years. So out of all of the genealogies you can read in the Bible, the Chronicles genealogy is the biggest. It summarizes the entire Old Testament. That's why it's at the end. So now, I am so glad that everyone is so super awake. Your eyes are bright, you're glistening. We will dive into part 2, the meat of the appetizer. We're going to go into Chronicles genealogy, and you and I know you are not this. This is the public perception of chapters 1 to 9, the genealogies. We highlighted in yellow. It's boring, but really important. To everybody else, it is because they don't understand. But today, your eyes will be opened. Reverend Abraham Park explains how you can glean the ginseng from every chapter, culminating in the important high priest history. It's going to be a very exciting night. So priesthood, that's the emphasis. It's not boring because we are going to open it up today. So why study Chronicles genealogy? It's recorded from a priestly perspective, and it condenses the entire span of the Old Testament. So when you study it, you are obeying Deuteronomy 32 verse 7. It's a shortcut. So if we look at the books of Chronicles, we can actually divide 1st and 2nd Chronicles into 4 sections. History from Adam to Saul, history of King David, history of King Solomon, and then history from King Solomon's death until the Babylonian captivity. These 3,650 plus years are all in these 4 sections. So today we're going to look into only chapters 1 to 9, only the genealogy section. So the emphasis and the answer to knowing this is regardless of the names and the tribes, you need to know the center focus of God writing this book is on the priests and Levites, but specifically on the high priest, the highest station and position in the Israelite community. And that's what we're going to be studying in the next lecture. Now, 3 major sections of how you should group chapters 1 to 9. The green section is David's genealogy from chapter 1 to chapter 3. It goes from Adam to Judah to David to Zerubbabel to Elionai. And then chapters 1 Chronicles chapter 4 to 8, you have the 12 tribes of Israel from Jacob's 12 sons. And the focus and emphasis is on the Levites, Judah, Benjamin. But 2 tribes are omitted. So it's not a physical genealogy, they are omissions. And then the last purple section is from chapters 9, only 1 chapter, but verse 1 to 44. It focuses on Judah, the priests, and the Levites. So let's go straight into characteristics. We know Chronicles genealogy covers everything through names. There are linear and also horizontal segmental formats, meaning there are father to son to grandson, linear. There's also father to 10 sons, horizontal segmental. There are genealogies written this way. There are gaps, but it doesn't interfere God's work to lead to the coming of the promised seed, the Messiah. So this genealogy is important because it links to Jesus Christ's birth into this world. Now, there are 2 kinds of genealogy you can find in the book of Chronicles, Yahas and Toledot. This is the Hebrew transliteration. Now, the focus is that God recorded all Israel. That means all of Israel, all their genealogies are recorded here. And this word, all Israel, this term, is used 52 times, just alone in Chronicles. So where is God's focus? He's focusing on His chosen ones. We are His chosen ones. He's focusing on you, but now through this book, you are realizing what God is looking when He's looking at you. What is He looking for? So it says, all Israel was recorded by genealogies. Now, why does He include these genealogies of all Israel? We have to learn a tip and trick. Whenever there's a focus on many people's names, it's either because number 1, that family line is very important, or number 2, that family is very prosperous and multiplied to a great number of people. So this is the tip and trick why you would see sometimes a genealogy explaining a lot from one family or one tribe. Bear this in mind, there is no repetition, which is without meaning. There is a focus. And then, if you look at the Chronicles genealogy, it talks about all Israel, 12 tribes. And then it goes to focus on 2 tribes, Judah and the Levites. And then from Judah, it leads to Christ. This is the bloodline, the lineage that leads to Jesus Christ. But then, the Levites are the people who carry out God's temple worship, right? And they are the key center crux of this entire genealogy. So we can say the genealogy of the Levites, which is the priest, and especially the high priest. Especially the high priest, that's at the center of the Chronicles genealogy, which you will study in the next lesson. So, Chronicles chapter 6 has 81 long verses. Long verses. Why do we focus on chapter 6? This is the chapter specifically on the high priest, on the Levites. Okay? And repetition in chapter 23 to 26, Levites are repeated again. So, we can see focus of the Chronicles genealogy, Judah and Levi. Tribes of Judah and tribe of Levi. And you will see this Greek letter key. It's an X in our English alphabet. This letter key is the kind of structure that the Chronicles genealogy is written in. We call it a chiastic. Chiastic structure is one where you have theme number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it is repeated. And the most important point is 5. And the emphasis of all of the 12 tribes, at the center of the entire genealogy, would be Levites and priests. So let's take a look at this. This is 1 Chronicles chapter 1 to 9. This is the chiastic structure, like an X. You can see it starts from the world before Israel to Judah, but right at the center, E, F, F1, and E1, this is the center portion of all of the Chronicles genealogy. It is the Levites, the priests, specifically the high priest. So we're going to go in now to look into every one of these 9 chapters, and you're going to pluck one ginseng, spiritual ginseng from every chapter. There are plenty to dig, but we have time only for one. So let's just do one. And the purpose and theme of studying this is to lead us to holiness, so we can stand before God's glory and His light. This is the key. So, 1 Chronicles, chapter 1 to 9. Let's look at chapter 1 to 9, color-coded. We will first look at 1 Chronicles chapter 1, from Adam to Jacob and his twin brother Esau. When we look at the 1 Chronicles chapter 1 genealogy, it talks about the genealogy from Adam to Noah, and then laterally Noah's 3 sons, his descendants, all the way going down to Abraham and then to Esau. Now, why is this important? It tells us that Adam is in here. He is the root, and God gave him a duty to obey His word in the Garden of Eden. That same duty and the same mission is passed down through his lineage, through his descendants. So it proves to us God's administration of redemption. His salvation work starts first with the first man. It starts from Adam. And it doesn't stop. 1 Chronicles chapter 2. From Jacob had 12 sons, right? It skipped to focus on the 4th son, Judah, the physical 4th son. It talks about the 12 sons of Jacob and the genealogy from Judah to David and other sons of Judah. But Judah came from where? He came from his father Jacob, right? But Jacob's name, interestingly in chapter 2, was not listed as Jacob but as Israel. This name swapping has a significance. The name Jacob means a bad negative connotation, right? Like a heel grabber, someone who supplants, like a potong jalan person, right? In the drive. So this name Israel is totally different. It means God prevails. God was wrestling with Jacob. And then when Jacob did not let go, He gave a new name. God gave a new name to Jacob, saying, "You are now Israel." So by terming 1 Chronicles chapter 2 that the 12 tribes of Israel were born not from Jacob but from Israel, tells us there's a spiritual significance to the nation of Israel. The task has changed now. God shall prevail. 1 Chronicles chapter 3. Now we're going to go further on from Judah to David. David's descendants all the way to Jeconiah. Now, of note, in 1 Chronicles chapter 3 is there's one queen whose name is omitted. And if you have read before, you know this lady is called Queen Athaliah. The reason why she was omitted was because she tried to stop the lineage of David that leads to Jesus Christ. She's the famous princess of King Ahab and the Queen Jezebel of northern Israel. So this tells us that even though there may be blockages from people, God's history of redemption will continue on. So 1 Chronicles 3:11 lists down Joram, Athaliah's husband's name, Ahaziah, her son's name, and Joash, her grandson, but took her name out. So the omission is to lead you to inquire why. Next, 1 Chronicles chapter 4. We are going now into Judah and Simeon. Now, just take a look at this entire box. Do you see Simeon, 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 Simeon in the last 4 lines? In chapter 4 from 24 to 43. Do you see the emphasis? Do you remember? Earlier tips and tricks? Why would God specially emphasize on certain families, certain tribes? Either number 1, what? Yes, they flourished. Or number 2, they played an important part. Something important that they did. So in this entire 1 Chronicles chapter 4, you can see certain names, right? It comes from Judah, but you see Jabez's prayer and birth. From a day he prayed that, God, may I not be the one that caused pain, but let me bring good, right? And expand. So last 4 is on Simeon, and let's see what's the reason. So one more point before talking about Simeon is that in this chapter, there is a Gentile Egyptian princess called Bithiah who was included. Who is this Bithiah? She was included because she believed in God and was included into the community of faith. And a lot was written about her. See, 1 Chronicles 4:17 tells us the sons of Ezra were Jether, Merah, Epher, and Jalon, and Mered's wife bore Miriam, Shammai, Ishba, the father of Eshtemoa. His wife, Jehudijah, bore Jared, the father of Gedor, Heber, the father of Socho, and Jekuthiel, the father of Zanoah. This is, I practiced how to say this. What is important is the last line. And these were the sons of Bithiah, the daughter of Pharaoh, whom Mered took. So who is this Bithiah? She's a Gentile and a Pharaoh's princess. Why should her name be inside Chronicles when it's about Israel? Because of one thing. She had faith. Look at her name. Bithiah is not an Egyptian name. Bithiah in Hebrew means daughter of Jehovah. She took on a faithful name. She was recorded as one because she changed her religion. So this tells us, today it doesn't matter we're not Jews. That your father is not so and so Cohen or Schneider or Schindler, right? It's not important. What's important is that you and I believe in Jesus Christ, and by faith you are in this genealogy, spiritually. So we have to look at Simeon now, right? We forgot about Simeon. Simeon was listed right after Judah when he is not the 5th son. So why was his name as a tribe listed ahead of birth order? There's a reason. You know, Simeon and Levi were taken as cursed sons because they took revenge for the rape of their sister Dinah or Dinah, right? And they used circumcision as a way to weaken the Shechemites so they can slay the entire city. Now, God cursed them. Not humans, God cursed them. But the Simeonites were restored. How were they restored? This tribe was so weak and so small, they could not receive an inheritance, so they had to stick to Judah and get a bit of land from them. But later on, during King Hezekiah's era, they were late to the game, but they did follow. They obeyed God's command in Deuteronomy 7:1 and 2 to utterly destroy the Canaanites in the allotted land. Not all the tribes did this, but the Simeonites did. And when they obeyed, they were recovered from the curse and they flourished. From the weakest tribe, they grew to be the biggest one. Not biggest one, grew to be a big one. So if we look at the verses, 1 Chronicles 4:38, you can see this is talking about Simeon tribe. Their father's house increased greatly. And why? Because of verse 41. They utterly destroyed the Canaanites. So the core of 1 Chronicles 4 is we sin, but God could restore. He could recover us even if we have sinned to the level of being cursed by people or even by God. So there is no sin that is irrecoverable or unrecoverable. There is none. So This is to encourage us. 1 Chronicles 5. It goes on to Reuben, Gad, half-tribe of Manasseh, dwelling on the east side of Jordan. They wanted their land first. The entire section here, I think the biggest name that you recognize is Reuben, the firstborn, who lost his birthright. This chapter focuses on the loss of the birthright. Reuben lost his firstborn position. Jesus was not born through Reuben's tribe. He was born through Judah's, right? So Reuben lost his firstborn right when he defiled his father's bed and had relations with his father's concubine. So it tells us, there are many sins that we commit. But the sin of adultery is one that is particularly heinous in God's eyes. There is physical adultery. There is also spiritual adultery where we cheat on our first love, which is God. So this is something that can strip all the blessings that God has prepared, even if we were firstborns, spiritual firstborns. Now, then who is the firstborn after Reuben was removed? We know Judah is, or Judah was, Judah is. And from Judah came King David, from King David's line came Jesus Christ. But in 1 Chronicles 5 came this mysterious line that the birthright belonged to Joseph, the most beloved son of Jacob, who wore the technicolor, the multicolored dream, that was this musical, Joseph's amazing technicolor dream coat. So it's forever etched in my mind. But anyway, it's Joseph's multicolored tunic, right? So the birthright was given to the sons of Joseph. So there's a spiritual line and there's a physical lineage that Jesus was born through. Now, next, chapter 6. This is the highlight of today's show. It is on the Levites. It is on the priests, and it focuses on the high priests. You focus on the high priests in chapter 6, and you'll be studying all about them in the next lesson. The high priests are listed here, but they are listed in 1 Chronicles 6, 49 to 51. They are listed earlier from 48, 49, 50 to 53. So you can see high priests are the center focus of this chiastic X-like structure. They're at the smack center. God wants to show all the tribes, but right at the focal point, it is the high priest genealogy and what they did. And why? High priests were like the spiritual representative of the people. They had the most important position. Now, the emphasis of chapter 6 is the priestly position. You and I are called in 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9 to be royal priests, spiritual priests for God. Even though your day job may be a waitress, a nail artist, you could be a teacher, musician, it doesn't matter. Your main task in the place that you are is to be a priest so that more people will know about God and go over to the kingdom of God. That is your real task. That is your real job. Spiritually, God made us kings and priests the moment you believe in Christ. But we don't always fulfill our duties well, which is why we need to study about what are the duties really given to the Old Testament priests, and then glean your ginseng on how this applies to you. So, Israel as a priestly nation are to save the world. You see, Bibiah, the Egyptian Pharaoh's princess, can become a believer if she believed in God. So anyone who believes in Jesus can be brought into the book of life. And that is our task. You are the mediator as a spiritual priest. Now, chapter 7, Issachar, Benjamin, Naphtali, Manasseh, Ephraim, Asher. Whole slew of tribes. What is important is Ephraim from Joseph. Joseph had two sons, right? Ephraim and Manasseh. Ephraim tribe ends with Joshua in 1 Chronicles chapter 7. And he is a victorious leader bringing the Jews into the promised land. He actually foreshadows Jesus Christ, our victorious leader, in defeating Satan, our enemy, by taking the cross and resurrecting from the dead. So everything in the Chronicles actually has a great bearing to your faith. Mistakes or good role models. Joshua in Hebrew is Yehoshua. Yehoshua means Lord is salvation. Isn't that Jesus' mission? He is our Lord of salvation. So when you look at the entire chapter 7, the focus is on Joshua. Our focus on the entire Bible is on Jesus Christ. Everything else, anything else in your life is vanity. When we go through situations and you try to look for people for solace, hobbies, to distract yourself, it doesn't work for long. It is vanity. So, let's now look at the 8th tribe. We're almost there. 8 and 9. The 8th tribe is the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin's tribe is repeated. You saw him earlier in chapter 7, right? Now he appears in chapter 8. So why? Why was the tribe of Benjamin repeated in chapter 8? There's a reason. 3 reasons. First, God remembers King Saul, whom he chose. King Saul came from the tribe of Benjamin. Second, during the time from Solomon, king had his son Rehoboam. He was harsh in his policies. So the people revolted against the taxes and the requirements that he put on the people, right? So 10 tribes went to northern Israel and said, "You're not our king, we have our own king." But Judah and Benjamin, these are the only 2 that did not revolt against Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, from the bloodline of David. Now, if you were Benjamin, who would you choose? Wouldn't you choose the bigger tribes, 10 of them, versus that one standing alone? But Benjamin did not. Benjamin stuck with Judah and formed the southern Judah kingdom. They chose the minority against his interest. It is the southern Judah kingdom that inherited the Davidic covenant. Jesus came, reigned on his eternal throne, coming as a descendant from King David. So this is the second reason why Benjamin was emphasized. They did something right. And number 3, in the return from Babylon, Jerusalem was a city of ruins. Ruins. Who wants to come back and be the first one to shovel coal and shovel all the cement and clay? It's not a nice place to live. So Benjamin formed the largest group of returnees, meaning they were willing to roll up their sleeves and do the dirty work, when most of the other tribes stayed back in Babylon. So Benjamin, again, showed that this entire tribe was so deeply educated and inculcated to stand up for God and for God's work. Whenever there's a requirement, they are there. They stand on the right side. So our lesson, you have to choose the side of where God's word is, not where the populist vote is. If God's word is being preached to teach you to go into a deeper maturation, you've got to be there. It is more convenient to listen to very comforting messages that praises you and keeps it easy for us. But when God's word asks us to stand up and do something, most of us don't see this as the first priority. We finish everything else in our day and then finally just finish off, tick the box, finish this for the church. But the reality is Benjamin did not have that attitude. That is why at every critical juncture they chose God rightly. Now, last chapter, we're almost there. Chapter 9, returnees from Babylonian captivity. What is the focus on? Those who return are priests, the Levites, and the genealogy of King Saul, the first king. What is the focus? The focus is on the people who returned. They are the priests who returned, the Levites who returned, and even Gentile temple servants called the Nethinim. They returned. So why did they return? To establish proper worship in the temple again, right? That's the key for chapter 9. So, in the tabernacle, there is a particular item that is changed every week. This is the table of showbread containing the 12 loaves of bread. And if you have seen the tabernacle book where the author drew out that it is not 12 pieces of pizza that are laid out on the table, it's stacked in a stack of 6 and 6 with inter-stacking boards so that the bread never touches the one below. So this table of showbread, the showbread is changed every week. Changed every week. And this actually foreshadows Jesus Christ, who is the bread of life. And every week you have an opportunity to eat this spiritual bread. And that's during your Lord's Day service. So do not ever miss any Sunday Lord's Day worship. This is your key to worship and to have a good worship that blesses you from that day and the next 6 days from Monday to Saturday. Now, we are going to summarize everything. We have gone through nine chapters. Do you see 3 tribes that pop up? It is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, right? Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, each of these tribes are mentioned twice. Why? Why is the focus on this? First reason, Judah, Benjamin held on to God's word. Second, the Levites, the priests, are actually representatives of God. They work in the church. They do the work of God to facilitate worship. This is the focus of God's word to us. So when we look at this, we need to understand the role of priests because you are royal priests. So what is your role? What is your daily job's role? What is the reason for our life? Priests are mediators. So in Latin, it's pontifex, which means bridge builders. They are building a bridge between God, high up, and fallen men. To bring God's word to fallen men and the repentant heart from fallen men back up to God. They are delivering up the worship so that fallen men can come closer to God. So, prophets and priests deliver God's message. So the key center focus of 1 Chronicles are the priests who carry the covenant and on tribes that hold on to the covenant. So if your life is focused on God's work and His covenant, you'll be the center of His entire record. So, let's take a look now on actual application, shall we? We're looking at the duties for priests and Levites. This is the last section. There are priests, there are Levites, and there is the high priest. Since all of us cannot be the high priest, only Jesus Christ is the true high priest, we will learn about the duties of the priests and Levites. What is the relevance? They are the firstborn chosen by God to do His work, replacing all the firstborns in Israel. So there is, in God's perspective, a general assembly or a group of spiritual firstborn sons, just as they are sons of God who are not firstborn. So the duties of the Levites and priests are actually our role models. They are role models for us to work in this life. There is no second life in this instance right now. So Numbers chapter 3 verse 12, it says, "Now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of every firstborn." Levites belong to God. In Hebrews 12:23, there is a general assembly and church of the firstborn registered in heaven. God is fixated on the concept of the firstborn son. And who is the firstborn? It is Jesus Christ. He is the firstborn amongst all the sons of God. So let's look at the duties of the Levites. First, Levites have duties to assist Aaron the high priest. They are to assist the high priest. In today's context, your spiritual high priest is Jesus Christ. We need to assist God in the work that is needed in the church. Now, the word serve in Hebrew is sharat. Sharat connotates a very deep respect, like an act of serving a king. And it is a service with great honor, a willing spirit, and a thankfulness to God. Now, this is difficult. Great honor, willing spirit, and thankfulness to God. Have you ever done church work with an unwilling heart and an unthankful spirit? We all have, right? The work still gets done, but your offering of that service and your time is a little bit stained because it's not thankful. So the correct attitude is what we should be looking at. It's not what church work you do. When we do anything, whether it's cleaning your church or making a phone call to invite somebody to do Bible study, if you did it out of a sense of chore, instead of being thankful and being respectful and doing it willingly, then it's the wrong perspective, it's the wrong spirit that we are doing this. Right? Numbers 3:6. Bring the tribe of Levi near and present them before Aaron the priest that they may serve him. We are to serve our Jesus Christ with the same reverence. Now, second thing, Jesus is a high priest, like Aaron was the high priest. But all of Aaron's sons, all of the high priest's sons are priests. They're not high. Only the firstborn son is the high priest. The second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth-born sons are all general priests. The priests, we are to join, us Levites, are to join with the priests. In Numbers 18:2, it says, "Bring with you your brethren of the tribe of Levi, tribe of your father, that they may be joined with you and serve you while you and your sons are with you before the tabernacle. Priests are sons of high priest. If our high priest is Jesus Christ, to use an easy-to-relate method, priest would symbolize your church leader, your pastor. You are to join your heart and interlock your missions together. So if you look at this little depiction of a little cord of blue and white, if we are not working together for the same purpose, this cord will unravel. If it's not intertwined, it will unravel. So our mission should be give wholehearted service to help your neighborhood pastor. In today's terms, what are the duties? Second duty, the Levites were not allowed to go into the tabernacle, the holy place. They are not allowed to go into the Holy of Holies. They're only allowed to serve in the courtyard. So this is the place where they will assist the priests in the burnt offerings and maintaining the order of worship. Now, second, we're going to move on from Levites to priests now. Who can be priests? Only the sons of Aaron can be priests. And the firstborn becomes the high priest. So what are the jobs of the priests? Today, they are pastors. Today, they are you. You are the royal priests, right? 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. There are three tasks. Deuteronomy 33, verse 10. They, the priests, you, are to teach Jacob, which is the whole nation Israel, your judgments, and Israel your law. They shall put incense before you, God, and a whole burnt sacrifice on your altar. Three jobs. Number one, interpret and teach the Bible. We are here to learn the Bible for your personal curiosity, but also because there is someone, many people around you, whom God needs to use you to reach out to. So, Ezekiel 44:23, priests teach God's people the difference between holy and unholy. So, to distinguish between good and evil is not an easy thing. What is right and what is wrong? You would only know if you study, and then you need to explain and pass it on. That's the job of the priest. Second job of the priest, to offer incense and burnt offering on the Lord's altar. To offer incense is a symbol of your prayer. Your prayer, like incense, goes before God's throne. We can have many verses in the Bible that talks about this. Psalms 141, verse 2, your prayer is set before God as incense. And the whole purpose of offering incense and burnt offering is to achieve true righteousness and holiness for the people of God. So this is the mediator's job for the priests. Third duty, musicians. There are Levites, there are priests, and there are musicians amongst the Levites, right? What do musicians do? This is like the choir and the praise team, and you, when you start off worship and you sing, you are doing the duty of a musician. You are making music. But what's interesting is the Bible terms musicians as prophetic songs. The songs or hymns that you sing, even though they are hundreds of years old from England, right, Britain, but they are prophetic songs that talk about God's word. So, 1 Chronicles 25 verse 1, you can see musicians can prophesy with your voice, with instruments like harps, like guitar, like stringed instruments like the piano, with cymbals and drums. This is like your praise team today in your church. And God loves it. He is lifted up through your praises. So when you sing praise with a devoted heart, you are doing this good job of being a musician for Him. Second thing on musicians. Musicians are also called seers or prophets because they sing about God's word. And you can read this, 1 Chronicles 25:3. You prophesied. The Jeduthun, sons of Jeduthun, who prophesied with a harp to give thanks and to praise God, they prophesied with a harp. A harp is like today's either piano or guitar, stringed instruments. And in the New Testament, we are told to teach in psalms and songs, spiritual songs. So when you worship truly well with music, you are also fulfilling this task as a spiritual musician. So, how should you become a true musician in God's eyes that is correct and good? There are 3 verbs. 1 Chronicles 16:4. And he appointed, this is David, appointed some of the Levites to minister before the ark of the Lord, to commemorate, to thank, and to praise the Lord God of Israel. 3 verbs. To commemorate, in English, it is celebrate. In Hebrew, you know this word, it is zakar. Zakar means to remember. When do you celebrate birthdays, anniversaries, and whatnot days? It is when you remember the date, right? Then you can celebrate your anniversary. You don't even remember it, there's no celebration. So you celebrate when you remember. So duties of musicians, we have to first remember. Remember what? We need to remember the worship days so you can be there. We need to remember the word of God, that when we worship, we are not just singing with your mouth, but you are prophesying the song. Second, give thanks. This word yada comes from the root word yod, which is your hand. So it literally means to show thanks with your hands extended out. And you extend your hands out when you are thankful, when you are surrendering, like a fugitive, right? If someone shoots a gun at you, you surrender, right? So when you surrender, when you sing songs with this heart of surrender, you are giving thanks. So giving thanks is really to extend your heart and your hands to God. And the third verb, to praise, halal, like hallelujah, it is to boast of God and to praise and applaud His goodness to us. So a true musician, when we worship in song, must have these 3. We must remember God's word and goodness in our life when we sing. We have to be thankful, surrender everything, regardless of good or bad days. And we need to praise for the good that He has given to you. This is duties. Last and final group of Levites are the gatekeepers. Gatekeepers close the door. It's like this. You would think it is the janitor of the Levites, but it is not. I had the greatest revelation from studying the gatekeepers, because we underestimate these gatekeepers. Gatekeepers in Hebrew is shamar. This word came out in the Garden of Eden when God told Adam, tend and keep it. You can memorize by now this word abad and shamar that Dr. Kim has drummed into your head, right? The other word is shamar, which means to guard or to keep. They are to guard the entrances of the king. This term is to guard not just a normal hut or a village. It is to guard only the king's palace or God's temple. We use this word shamar. So why must we guard the temple? Who's going to rob it? It must be kept and preserved holy. So there are many temple gates. And all these temple gates are only entrusted to Levites to open and close it. So it is not a lowly position, because 1 Chronicles chapter 9 records the greatest number of names from gatekeepers. From gatekeepers. So let's take a look at the gatekeepers. What are their duties? Number 1, to guard. Just as the gatekeepers guard the physical temple of God, the true temple of Christ is you and I, your heart. We need to guard it from the wrong things we hear, wrong things that we see, wrong things that we read, the worldly influences that come in and steal away God's word. So we need to protect the temple of our heart. Adam fell because he did not shamar. He didn't keep his heart away from the very seductive voice of the serpent through Eve, right? So when we don't protect your ears, you don't filter what you read and what you hear, the advice that people give you, then your decisions and your judgment will be impaired. You will think only for yourself. Because who else is going to think for you? In this world, it's only everyone out for himself. But we are in a different parallel universe where God is leading you to the promised land. He's looking out for you. So these two are antithesis to each other. Satan's words and God's word. Now, second thing, before we go there, these are the verses to keep our hearts with all diligence. And one more trapdoor to your heart is your mouth. What you hear, what you think, what you see, and what you accept. You speak it out, right? So we have to be very careful of the complaints and the grumblings and the irritation and the anger and the frustrations that we feel on a day-to-day basis. Don't express it so easily, because that's the trap door of your heart. Guard your door. You are a gatekeeper. You keep in the wrong and you keep out the wrong too, right? So, let's look at the second duty for the gatekeeper. The gatekeeper was given a blessing. This blessing was passed down generations. It's not mentioned for any of the other tasks. It's not mentioned for the musicians, or the Levites or the priests, but specifically mentioned for the gatekeepers that the task was passed down through generations with blessings. And the descendants of the gatekeepers became really, really successful. They flourished. They did not dwindle in number. Example, Obed-Edom. Who wants to be Obed-Edom? Everyone wants to be Obed-Edom, right? As long as you know who he is. He's the one where the Ark of the Covenant was parked in his house for 3 months and he didn't die, and he flourished. So we want to be Obed-Edom. Do you know, out of the 24 segments or 24 divisions of gatekeepers, his family had more than half of the gatekeepers come from his descendants. How big is this family tree? To occupy half of the role, right? So, third, you would think gatekeepers are these sissies, right? Just open the door and close the door, thin and frail. Oh no. They were valiant men. They were strong. They were intelligent. They were wise. They were like James Bond. Actually, it was the wrong post, the picture that I put. My name is doorkeeper. But anyway, just to amuse myself. But anyway, they were valiant gatekeepers. They were valiant. An example in 1 Chronicles 26:14, Zechariah guarded the northern gates at that time, and he was described to be an advisor or counselor with insight, someone intelligent, like Ahithophel. Or like in our time, maybe Richard Lee, a minister that was good and smart. So they were valiant, they were strong, they were smart, they were wise. So I want to be a gatekeeper now. They could open and shut the door and allow the right people to come in and the wrong people to keep out. This is a skill that Adam lacked, that led to everyone's downfall. These gatekeepers, 1 Chronicles 26:7, just a little excerpt. They were described as able men. Able men means capable. They're capable people. They are not the jobless people out there. That's why they could only open the gates. They were qualified. So, our lessons. We're going to go to conclusion because you're going to be served an exciting entree on the high priest. So to just pave the way, we are actually obeying Deuteronomy 32:7 to remember and consider the years of all generations. To do so, you need to know who are the central targets of Chronicler's genealogy. It is people like us, like you, who hope to carry on God's work. That's the focus of your life. And the focal point of this work is in the temple. So the priests, the Levites comprises of gatekeepers, musicians, priests, Levites, right? These 4 groups of people, they are all dealing with the work of worship and salvation. So that's the core of our lives, actually. The role model for your faith is to go out and do God's work in your church, in your community. All the Bible studies mean nothing if we go to heaven alone and sit there alone. So, as God's chosen people, we are the spiritual Levites. So that means when you learn about the Levites and the priests, you understand, and I understand now, the type of mindset and attitude, not so much shoveling of the coal and lighting of the incense, but the attitude that we should have when doing the work of God, when reading the Bible, when praying. This is because Jesus Christ has saved us. And He has brought you into His kiln, right? into His tent. So we have to do His work, and to do it well, the 4 classification of Levites is a big help. This lecture is from Book 6. When it is published, please take a look for it at the library if you can. So we want to thank God and give glory to God. Thank you.